This is Selma. I've known Selma for 10 years, I think. What we have in common is that we're both creatives, designers. What we have in common is that we live in the same neighborhood. What we have in common is that we live in a neighborhood with a lot of old people. What we have in common is that we like food and we like the color yellow. Selma is teaching creativity at St. Lucas, and she's making music as well. So that's Selma.
This is Arnoud. To start with Arnoud about music, we also do a little bit of improvisation together with some music instruments. I do the percussion. He's very good at piano. So we are working on a song called Yellow Dawn, inspired by working together on this project. So that's something completely different. But we also like to try out some new ingredients for cooking. And we were having the same experience in our neighborhood. How can we bring people together? The old people, the young people, the middle-aged, the new, the people who live there for almost their whole lives. That's what we are hearing when talking to them. And Arnoud's also working as a creative, and when we work together, we come up with some stuff. And this is one of the things that has been reality. So that's what we want to share with you.
Yeah. So we always come up with crazy stuff. This was very simple. We were both having sort of in-between job periods, so we were thinking all kinds of new stuff. And this was one of the ideas that we created at the kitchen table. And basically the need for the whole concept is what I said before. We live in a neighborhood with a lot of elderly people, some young people, very interesting mix of people actually, but the people don't really generally have a lot of communication in between them. So you see all the people all the time, but they don't really share any stories, they don't share their vision on what this neighborhood should be or could be. They're just living their lives, and we have old people from England, and we have people from Denmark, and we have people from Eindhoven, and they're very interesting ingredients as we see it, but they weren't cooking together. So that's why we came up with a sort of concept. Can you introduce it?
Yeah, it's called the Yellow Table because you think about a table as a place to come together, to join, to share stories, to share food, to share ideas. And yellow is also the color of our little village, Selma and Arnoud, and it's part of the
hence the color yellow,
and
right?
It's also the color for positivity and sunshine and good energy, so we found it a very good match. That's the moment around our own kitchen table. We start sketching, noticing, and playing around with
this was me actually. I was crying at the time because I was in between jobs, so I was having some food to get myself excited again.
Yeah, some comfort food.
Right. Yeah, so we had the table as our major idea. So we had the name actually first and everything. But how to connect the neighborhood, so we took in the ingredients food and eating, because everybody needs to eat and they likely more being able to communicate when they're eating together. So that's why we first, well actually the next slide gives us the first idea, because at the first instance we were talking about the yellow chair, because we wanted to share stories. So we thought, well, let's have a chair, and then somebody sits in the chair, and then when he's in the chair or she can be the storyteller, and she can tell stories. So I'm this 80-year-old guy, I'm from Denmark, I live in Sonnau, I've lived with Philips all my life, and tell their life stories. But then we thought, well, maybe putting too much emphasis on one person, they will make them shy. It's like a podium, like this. We should be shy, actually. But, it's more like we should create a sort of a social environment that is more about sharing and not so much about the stories, but much more about being together. So then we evolved from the chairs into the tables.
Make it local, social and flexible. Something that can be shared within the neighborhood. It don't have to be happening on one spot. It can move around. And we were thinking about how can we make that happening? How can we make that a real experience within our little tiny neighborhood with all the different people? So we think, why don't we start a little pop-up restaurant, just very small with only 10 people, and yeah, just share stories around the table, talk about each other's experiences. We had some themes coming on, like the past, the present and the future, and we came up with some themes to yeah, get the people start talking about things they experienced a long time ago in the neighborhood, if something happened just today, or what plans they have with their own neighborhood. And yeah, together with some homemade local food, it sounds a bit logical, so we started to think about inviting people.
Yeah, so basically we created the concept with also local food from the neighborhood. We thought, well, we can connect some concepts together, then we have a bigger chance of it becoming more popular. So we tried to connect the elderly facilitation in Son and Breugel, but that didn't go through. But we invited a local farmer that breeds, how's it called? Buffaloes, right? So to come and have a talk for them. And then we prepared it with local food and biological food and everything to sort of create a unique concept for the neighborhood. And the idea actually, first it was about bringing them together, because we were thinking it was a pity that people didn't talk anymore or didn't really interact. But then it became more ambitious, because we were thinking, well, we need this as a sort of space where we can share stories from the past, but also envision what we as a neighborhood would be in the future. Like, how can we as a neighborhood grow, and how do we see ourselves in the, you know, in the changing world with, you know, the whole world mixing up and the stress and the, how can we maintain our feelings and our kindness in the neighborhood? So that kind of became the concept. So we started with just inviting everybody, because we didn't know what to do. So we just made these ones and put them in all the all the letterboxes all around the neighborhood, thinking that nobody would ever want to be involved in such a stupid idea as ours. And then the next day there was like everybody's like, yeah, great, we're going to join. And then we had a problem, right? Yeah, so basically, you have a next slide?
Yes, and that's
great.
It's a bit back in the in time, because when we wanted to do the invitations, we thought, okay, we can do a small guerrilla action in our village. Just post some stuff on the near the Albertijn, in their own gardens, on the lanterns, on the waste bins, and there were texts like, it's so much fun to eat together, or spice up your neighborhood. Yeah, it's a kind of, how do you say that? We just wanted them to be curious about what's the yellow table, what's happening in our neighborhood. And they're still there, a bit more.
Yeah, because actually the mayor of Son, he lives in our neighborhood. And he wanted to join, so we had sort of like a free hand in bombing the whole city with these stickers. So actually my kids went out with glue, and they bombed every place that they saw with these. So it was yellow for a pretty long time. But we got a lot of attention from everybody, like we were stirring up the event a little. Also on Facebook, of course, we did some campaign and everything.
And then it was time to think about, what are we going to eat?
Right.
We, as Arnoud told you, we try to make it local, healthy. So it was a vegetarian dishes, that we think about. And we asked also, are there any allergic people or things you don't want to eat, you cannot eat? But that was quite easy stuff. So we came up with a whole vegetarian menu. And it was time to start with our pilot evening, and we had a very mixed audience, and that was really nice to see the children talking with the elderly about the same subject and sharing their ideas.
Yeah, we had a pretty mixed crowd because we were thinking, well, maybe only the young and cool people will join us. But there's not many young and cool people in our neighborhood, so we're the only ones, actually. No, just kidding. But we think, well, some people might say, yeah, this is just this. What is this strange concept? We don't like this. It's too, I don't know. We don't gonna go out at night. But we had like the oldest guy was 83, and the youngest was the girl, I think, 11 or 12 or something.
And her brother was.
And her brother. So we had like a very mixed crowd. It's like, wow, we actually have a really diverse neighborhood. There's not one age group or just us, but there's like all kinds of people, and they all want to be part of this. So I was pretty amazed that they were actually joining our table, our kitchen table idea. But they did, and you have some,
Yeah, some nice conversations. We had a kind of a theme coming up about animals in our neighborhood. Now we live in a bit in a woody environment, so there was a lot going on. She saw a little fox around our neighborhood, so there were some other people who also saw foxes, so then you have a nice conversation already. And it's nice to tell this girl is dyslexic, and she volunteered to read all the things coming in, brought in by other people. So she felt really comfortable talking for kind of strange people. Maybe she saw them on the streets, but she stood there and she did it, and I was really proud of her.
Yeah, so actually we didn't just serve the food, but we had a little gaming idea where we had cards with questions and they could trade, and so to stir up the conversation a little bit. So we had some creative tools actually, and one of them was facts around the neighborhood. That was the first one actually. And then another question was, so how do you envision this place in like 30 years? How would it look like? What do you think this place will look like? And then we had some new people coming in. Of course, they liked it to have a good welcoming in the neighborhood. Yeah, so a lot of positive reactions. And do we have the slide of the old guy want to go to Mars? Yeah.
A nice one.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's the old guy. So he was there. He was actually one of the more creative of the crowd. And he was thinking about that he wanted to go to Mars, and I don't know what's in the food, anything, but he ate a lot of, I don't know. Yeah, we had the special cake, and he ate it all at once, right? Yeah. And then he wanted to go to Mars and everything, and he actually wrote a real cool sort of like future plan for the neighborhood, that it would be, that he would be going to Mars and that he would see it and it would be great, and yeah, he had a lot of imagination actually. But there were also a lot of ideas about how it could be a sort of like a self-sustaining community where we would build a greenhouse in the neighborhood and create our own food and sustain the wildlife, because there's a lot of forest around. So how can we sort of become the greenest point in the Netherlands, connect ourselves with the Veluwe or with, the forest, like a green roots and everything. So there was a lot of creative thinking about our little world actually. Yeah.
The elder guy, he responded to the question, how are we in our own newspaper in 10 years' time? And he was thinking about, okay, then I write a note from our little rocket near Mars, and then I look at Sun as a beautiful village, and I will send that message to you.
Right.
That was his little story. We did some social media actions just to get people enthusiastic about the ideas, and we get some very good response. We were very happy with it, and I think we are ready now to go on and to give other people the chance to have the same or maybe a better experience. And there are some people from our neighborhood who told us that they want to join, they want to cook, they want to think about new actions. So
yeah, the idea was to make it scalable. So we do it the first time, but then if people get enthusiastic, we give them all the tools and how to do this, and they can organize themselves. So the next yellow table, we won't be organizing it, but some other people will, and use another person's house. And we would like to have some sort of concept that can grow. And
it's very easy. You only need a few.
Yeah, so that's not so hard. So we try to encourage with, you know, creative thinking. We try to encourage the idea of sharing and creating our own yellow table. And the latest idea is to try to create a yellow table, mixing with the concept of refugees, and say how can we mix those two concepts and create sort of like a European yellow table or some sort, where everybody brings, you know, stories from their country, recipes from their country, some sort of global or European sort of sharing concept. But that's just an idea, so if anybody wants to execute it, write down your names. Yeah.
You can follow us on Facebook to see what we are doing. We will post also other things going on. And last but not least, we wish you a yellow Christmas and a social New Year.
Yeah, cool. All right.